It's a pleasure to be here. I would like to thank the World Trade Center here in New Orleans for organizing and hosting the event, and also the sponsors for supporting it. It's a true pleasure again to be here. It's kind of coming home for me. First posting in my career. My first son was born here, so I have a very close connection to the city. Always, supported the Saints as well. So it's it's a real pleasure to be back here. And what I'm going to do today is present you Switzerland before my distinguished colleagues from the embassy is going to give you a more in-depth view of its economy and its economic ties and financial ties to the US. But myself, I'm going to give you a broad presentation about Switzerland as a country, and as the title of my presentation says, in its diversity. Switzerland, for most of you probably, you have the cliches, chocolate, cheese, watches, banks. That's part of it, certainly. We are known for that, all over the world. But there are other things. There are plenty of other things to be discovered in Switzerland. So let me start with my presentation and give you some facts and figures about the country. It's a small country. In the middle of Europe, it's about a third of the size of Louisiana. So, and has 3 million more inhabitants than in Louisiana. And considering that only 1/3 of the country is actually habitable, then the density of the population is fairly high. And we have presently 7.7, 7.8 million inhabitants in Switzerland, with a fairly large percentage of foreign population, about 22%, which is fairly high. It has been always that way in Switzerland since many, many years. Immigration started after World War II. Switzerland needed foreign workers to help develop its economy. So they contributed greatly to the development. They first came from Italy. I'm one example of them. My parents came from Italy after the World War II. I was born in Italy, but joined them as a small child, grew up in the French part of Switzerland, and eventually became a Swiss citizen. So there's been then, Italy, Spain, Portugal, and then people from Sri Lanka. Then we have, people coming from the Balkan region, from North Africa, from Africa. So it's a kind of a melting pot. We have been fairly successful in integrating the foreign population in Switzerland. It's become more of a challenge with people coming from different cultures, with a different religion as well. We are trying to tackle the challenge and try to integrate them as best as we can. But again, immigration has been a very important element of Swiss society and also of the success of Switzerland economically. It's a diverse country. 4 languages, 4 official languages: German, French, Italian, and Romansh. You can see the geographic distribution with the French on the western side of the country, German in the middle and the east, and then the southern part is Italian, and in some valleys in the east, pardon me, then the Romansh. There are about less than 40,000 people remaining who speak actually Romansh in Switzerland. But we try to preserve that heritage. It's very much part of our heritage. And we are influenced by our neighboring countries, Germany, France, Italy, and that's very much part of our culture as well. Switzerland was founded in 1291 by 3 cantons, joining forces against the Habsburg at the time. And then, along the centuries, it developed, into a country, became a country actually in 1848 when the first constitution was actually enacted. We inspired ourselves from the US model, the 2 chambers on the legislative side. So, and the U.S. on its side, inspired itself from Switzerland with, the direct democracy we have. So that's why we call the U.S. and Switzerland sister republics on the political side. But, as my colleague then will say in his presentation, there is also a very, tight connection on the economic and financial side. So we have a federalist system as here in the US, 26 cantons. Each one of them has a constitution, very independent and very proud to be independent. So the federal government has really to see and deal with that element and see that it respects the autonomy and the independence of the cantons. Switzerland is a direct democracy and has been so for a long time. It's very much in our DNA, in our culture. People vote at least 4 times a year. And we have a vote coming up on the 13th of February, and that it's related to whether or not we will keep, men will keep their rifle at home, or should it be stored in a federal facility, and that's to prevent, incidents, involving rifles, army rifles. Just to give you an example, but last year also we had an initiative regarding foreign nationals residing in Switzerland committing a crime, and then for that, and it was a very sensitive issue where, actually people ended up accepting the initiative and voting for foreign nationals who commit an offense in Switzerland then to be, for their residency permit to be revoked. That's one example. 2009, the Minaret Initiative, banning actually the building of minarets. That doesn't mean that we banned the construction of mosques or the practice of the Muslim religion, but just the construction of minarets, that's as a symbol of a religion. And that again was a very sensitive issue in Switzerland. Political system, government and parliament, the lower chamber, the national councils, 200 members representing actually the people, and according to the population of each and every canton, it's represented in the federal, in the national council. Then the Council of State, which would be the Senate, comparable to the Senate here in the US, represent the states. So there is the rural areas which are less populated and have a lesser say in the National Council, have a greater say in the Council of States. The executive, the government, we have only 7 ministers. It's a small government. The 4 major parties, political parties, are represented in the government. It's called the magic formula. And we try to make it work that way and still to be magic. It's not always easy, but it's based on consensus. Once once a decision is made and taken within the Federal Council, even if a member belonging to a party which doesn't agree with the issue or with the decision has to support the decision of the Federal Council. So it's a good system. It's a system also which has its flaws. It takes time to build consensus. It's slow sometimes, but it has worked for a long time. There are talks at the moment of reforming the system, but actually it's going to be rather difficult to find the right formula to reform the system. But there are talks on the way.